please. Come over here, the wrong thing, yeah. Thank you very much. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Christie, my parliamentary colleagues and cabinet colleagues, and of course to Mrs. Miller on this sad occasion. I think it was the 31st of December, the morning of the 31st of December 2020, that I received a call. I was in Freeport in bed from the Secretary General. And she said, "You wouldn't believe this, but Terence Bethel is dead. He's our vice chair." 2023, again, it's early morning. I receive a call. She says, "You wouldn't believe this, but Obi Wishcombe is dead." And then it's midnight. A couple of nights ago, I'm in New York, and I get this phone call. And again, she says, "You wouldn't believe this, but Vaughn Miller has passed away." And my response each time was, "Who?" And then all the formal things have to click in, because you have to make sure that next of kin. So it was her sad duty and responsibility to call Mrs. Miller at 1 o'clock in the morning and explain what had happened to the best of our knowledge, information, and belief. It is difficult in this current environment to contain news, and people are insensitive to the feelings of family and friends. And so all of that had to be managed, an announcement had to be made, the Prime Minister had to be called. All of those things had to happen within the short space of time before the country woke up at 6 o'clock or so. And that's one of the roles you get as chairman of the party. This morning, as I was leaving New York and coming home, I felt really awful. I thought I was about to have a stroke. And I just sort of shook it off. And then I got this call that a very dear friend of mine, who's my same age, we went to primary school together, her name is Deanne Barrett, that she passed away. And it just reminds me that I've said many times to these audiences of the Progressive Liberal Party that people in my age, I'll be 72 on Sunday, past our expiry period, in the sense that when I was born in 1953, the life expectancy at birth of a child, male child in the Bahamas, was 50 years of age. So because of healthcare, managing your life, I'm able to be where I am today. And each day, I appreciate the opportunity which you and all the other people have given to allow me this privilege to be here to speak on behalf of the Progressive Liberal Party, and to welcome you all here this evening at this wonderful service for our friend and brother, whose name was Reverend Vaughn Miller MP. And I say to people that if you do the math, the 38 people who end up in Parliament are something like 0.00975% of the population. So you are in, when you get that job, you are in a very special group. And for that, it is a thankless job in many senses, but it is a job which people do where they contribute their life's work and time to making this country the successful country that we have. There is a writer, his name is John Steinbeck, who wrote a book called Of Mice and Men. It is taken from a line in a poem by Robert Burns, and the line says that the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. So you can plan however you like. We don't know the day or the hour. And Shakespeare reminds us that all the world's a stage, and every man has many parts in his life. and we have our exits and our entrances. And the question is, what do we do in the time that we have on the stage? And Vaughn Miller, as you heard today, when it was his time on the stage, stepped up and did what was right and proper. There is a movie called 6 Degrees of Separation, and it tells the story, or the theory is, that each person in life is related to somebody else by 6 people in between you and them. I was thinking back, my mother was a bit of an adventuress, and she told us a story of a couple named Fred and Carrie Wright. They are from a settlement called Greencastle. They worked for my grandmother, who died before I was born. But in the 1950s, my mother put us in her car on the mail boat, and we went over to Rock Sound, New Luther. And she drove us to Greencastle. And we spent the night at Fred and Carrie Wright's place. And that's what I learned what Greencastle was. It was the heart of the Progressive Liberal Party. The heart. So now, when Vaughn Miller ran for the F&M and came from Greencastle, I would say to myself, what's going on here? Because he's a black nationalist. He patented his look like Malcolm X, the glasses he wore, the speeches he gave. So how he ended up in this party? They don't have nothing to do with that. So you knew that wasn't gonna last as long as Patty in the Army. And so when he got the job as a member of Parliament, it was a short time after that as our former Prime Minister said, the monkey put question to his mouth. And he stood up on the national stage and said, no, it's not going to happen that way. And that, ladies and gentlemen, all PLP supporters in here and people of goodwill, that signals something which I had then become chairman of the PLP, and I was saying to people, look, this fellow Minnis, he's not the Messiah because he won an election. That's only a snapshot of what people feel on the day they went to the polls. That don't mean nothing. You gotta, the Junkanoo, when you get defeated, the Valley Boys, the Saxons, they go back in the shack because you only got a week before New Year's comes. So I said, this election is gonna come quicker than you think, and you've got to get yourself organized. But when Vaughn Miller did what he did, I think that signaled to the country, we can do this. We can do this. It's a great step on his part. Jackie Kennedy said after her husband died in 1963 that for one brief shining moment, there was a place called Camelot in our own history. This one brief shining moment of a man standing up in Parliament and saying, I'm going to lose my salary, I'm going to lose my job, but I must do what is right for the Bahamian public. And he did it. Now, fast forward to today. Brave Davis, who is the leader of our party, has managed to keep the Progressive Liberal Party together from 2021 to now. And this is not an easy thing to do, because you have all these egos, everyone has they won their seat on their own, of course. They're elected, we all got there, and you can't tell me nothing. And you have to manage all of that so that we get to the finish line. I hope it's a year from now, but it ain't my call. You get to the finish line with all of us together as one. And for him, for example, to manage so far members of Parliament who've decided that they will not be running again, that's a feat. Most people kick up a fuss when you broach that subject. But he was able, Vaughn Miller was able to say, I've had my time on the stage, and I agreed to move on to the next chapter of my life. I want to identify with Leslie Miller, who talked about the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that hits people who are in public life. You know, Pindling said at Shadrach Morris's repast, we were all in Irvin Knowles' yard, and he said, you know, in this life in the Bahamas, we don't treat you right in life, but we sure know how to bury you. You got my point? So the point Leslie was making is that many people have these private griefs. I don't know, you do this and this one doesn't like what you do, and you say this and this one doesn't like what you say, and you didn't come to see me, and you know, all of this stuff, and you've got your own business to manage. It's a thankless job. And for him to handle this with such equanimity is a good and joyful thing.
Yes.
And for that, we are grateful to him again. So, a young one comes to me a couple of weeks ago. He's trying to run for a seat. He's trying to get a nomination, causing trouble in someone's constituency. And says to me, what advice do you have in order for me to get this nomination? So I say, I ain't got no advice for you. You get there the best way you can. Because in this dispensation, ain't no rules. You do what you do, you say what you say, and you hope, because politics is just a fortuitous business, mostly fortuitous. You try and be in the game, you try and be present, you try and do all the things that you've been trained and all the rest of it, but it comes down to luck. You know, Jeff Thompson, the former minister, told me he was sitting down before the '67 election, and Pindling and those were trying to decide, because nobody wanted to run for the PLP in '67. And so they're sitting in Pindling's office, and he turns to Jeff and said, well, ain't nobody going to be in Fort Fincastle. You may as well take Fort Fincastle. And he ends up winning the seat. So, fortuitous business. But it's an important business. And let me tell you this, I don't care what people say, politicians in the Bahamas and anywhere are no better or worse than the people who elect them and who they serve. They can say whatever they like. They represent you and you and you throughout the country. So don't put that on me. My last conversation with Vaughn Miller was, again, a formal duty as chairman of the Progressive Liberal Party. He had publicly announced after conversations with the Prime Minister that he was not going to offer himself for re-election. And I called him to say, on behalf of the Progressive Liberal Party, I wanted to thank him for his contribution as a colleague, as a member of Parliament, and as a minister of the government, and that I had enjoyed enormously working with him, and I looked forward to continuing to work with him through the end of the term, and I wanted to wish him all the best going forward. That was the last time I spoke to him, and in retrospect, I'm happy that I was able to do that.
Yes.
And so, Mrs. Miller, you have every reason to be proud of your husband and the contribution that he made. Every member of Parliament who serves the Progressive Liberal Party is entitled to be a stalwart councillor of the party. Unfortunately, we did not have the opportunity before Mr. Miller passed away to confer formally the honor of stalwart councillor. We have now, the Prime Minister, myself, the Deputy, I believe, has signed the certificate to award posthumously to the Honourable Vaughn Miller the honor of stalwart councillor, and I'd like the Prime Minister, if he can at this time, present the certificate to his wife. May he rest in peace. Thank you.